Hi everyone, it's nice to be here. It's actually the third year in a row that I've gotten to come do this, and I think it's a really wonderful thing that you are able to take part in, being at work but coming to listen to a rep talk about opportunities either for yourself or maybe for your children, of course, who are going to be going on to higher education. So again, my name is Ilana. I'm the Associate Director of Recruitment Initiatives with Cal State East Bay. And I'm here today not only to represent, of course, CSU East Bay, but the entire California State University system. I want to know really quickly, does anyone know how many campuses total in the CSU system? 23. I wish I had a prize. We'd have a winner. They're good. Not a lot of people know that. So yes, there are 23 campuses across the state, and let's not get those confused with the University of California system, which is different. UCLA, UC Berkeley, UC Merced, those come from a different system. We have a campus as far north as Humboldt, and then of course as far south as San Diego, and we encourage you and or your student to look at all of the different opportunities out there. We are the largest public university system in the country, and we serve more than 425,000 students every year. And it's really important to understand that each campus is unique. So although I know, of course, mostly about Cal State East Bay, I know a little bit about some of our sister campuses, and it's important for you to research and to look and see what campuses offer. Do they have majors that your student is interested in? Are they the kind of location that your student is interested in going to school? So in the Bay Area, just to give you a little sense, we have a really good variety of CSUs. We have both East Bay and Sonoma, which are mid-sized campuses, somewhere around 12 to 15,000 students on campus. We also have a very small campus, the smallest in the entire CSU. It's called Cal Maritime. Who knows where that's located? What city? A lot of people don't know. It's in Vallejo. So it is in Vallejo, which is, what is that, north of Concord, like if you were going on your way to Sacramento, essentially. And it is a very specialized campus, actually, that only has 6 majors, and they're all geared towards maritime activities. And then we, of course, have 2 very large, well-known campuses in the Bay Area, San Francisco and San Jose. So what are some of the overall benefits and contributions of the California State University system? I'll just touch on a few of them. We offer over 1,800 bachelor's and master's degrees across the 23 campus system. The top 5 degrees are business and management, social science, interdisciplinary studies, psychology, and education. And in fact, we produce the teachers in the state of California, the most teachers in the state of California. Also, 87% of the students that start as first-time freshmen, that's what FTF stands for, come from the public schools in the state of California. So although there's kind of word on the street that the CSU system is letting in all these kids from out of state and internationally, there's a few coming in, but it is really not as significant as some people think. And 90% of students who transfer into our system come from the community college. So today we're going to review the admission requirements for a student who wants to come in as a first-time freshman, and additionally the student who wants to come in as a transfer student, likely from a community college. Another thing we'll touch on is alumni from Cal State East Bay. So are there any alumni in the room, by the way? All right, we got one in the back. See, I needed to bring another prize, darn it. Okay, they're gonna have to remind me for next year. So we are very proud, of course, of all of our graduates, but we really do have some distinguished ones, including the chancellor of the entire CSU system. He received his master's degree, Timothy White. We also have a California State Senator and California State Treasurer, as well as radio personalities, TV personalities, someone from the Baseball Hall of Fame, Go Giants, and CFO of John Bejuice and the San Francisco Opera. So a lot of exciting alumni that you can talk to your children about if that's who you're here looking into and thinking about why they might have really good opportunities after they graduate from Cal State East Bay. What can you study at the CSU? Pretty much anything you want. Doesn't mean that you're going to be able to study at a Cal State East Bay. But what's really great is inside the folder that you picked up today is a small postcard with CSUMentor.edu on it. What that is a reminder that every student, even if they're even only in 9th grade, should be going and creating a login name and a password on the CSUMentor.edu website. And why do they need to do that now? Because it's not only a website where you're going to actually apply to college, it's also a website where you can search and compare the 23 different campuses. So there's a search engine within the website that allows your student to say, well, maybe I think I want to study kinesiology. And then what they can do is they can identify early on the campuses that might be of interest to them if they've narrowed down their major. They might find out that Long Beach doesn't even offer the major that they're interested in. So that might not be a place they want to end up applying. So let's talk about admission, which is often the reason that you all are here. For freshmen, meaning that you're graduate from a California high school, things have stayed consistent over the last many years. There are campuses, however, that are impacted, and we are going to talk about that in a moment. In order to be eligible to be admitted, the student has to have graduated from high school or will be graduating. They have to have completed all of the A to G coursework and meet something called the Eligibility Index. 1/3 of CSU campuses, approximately, do admit freshmen based on the minimum CSU eligibility. And I'm really excited to be part of Cal State East Bay because we are one of the campuses that is able to do that. If your student meets the minimum eligibility, they will be admitted to CSU East Bay because we're not impacted. So these are the courses. Raise your hand if you have a student in high school right now. Okay, the bulk in the room. So these are courses that your students should be taking in high school. So for instance, I happen to have a senior in high school. So she has completed 1 year of her US history, and that was in 11th grade, and this year she's taking government and economics. 4 years of English, that's typically a very common high school graduation requirement, so it's pretty easy to accomplish that. Mathematics, 3 years are required, but 4 are recommended, especially for those competitive campuses, because students need to make sure that they're kind of putting themselves above the bar if they're interested in a campus that is impacted. It is a requirement that the student pass these classes with a C or better, all of them, a C or better. If you have a student who was kind of a math whiz and might have taken Algebra 1 in middle school and then they took geometry in 9th grade and they got to Algebra 2 in 10th grade, they should continue on. They shouldn't just stop there at the end of 10th grade. And then the requirement is met. The assumption is if the student has moved on to Algebra 2 and successfully passed it with a C or better, the system does not need to see the Algebra 1 course they took in 8th grade on their transcripts. It's an assumption that, of course, they would not have been passed on if they had not successfully passed it. And there's also something else that's called validation. And what that means is that even if a student received, let's say, a D in their second semester of an Algebra 1 class, in high school, they'll move you on. That's a whole nother conversation about whether the student should be really moved on, but they will. And if the student can get to the Algebra 2 and pass with a C or better, it validates that D grade. Still counts as part of their GPA, but it validates it, meaning we will say, okay, good, that student met the requirement. You have your laboratory science, which is typically in high school your biology and your chemistry, but there is a lot of other classes that will meet the requirements as well. Language other than English, Spanish, French, Chinese, German, anything that's offered. American Sign Language counts if it's offered at the high school, as long as it meets the A to G requirement. It does have to be 2 years of the same language. So if your student took Spanish in 9th grade and really didn't like it and decided to take French in 10th grade, they have to take another year of French or they have not met the requirement. We get to visual and performing arts, a single year of the same course. So they can't take ceramics first semester and then take photography second semester because they will not have met the requirement. So they at least have to get a full year in of the same course. And then you have your general college prep electives. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go into the website that's listed above, and that's in your handout that you picked up out front. And you're going to want to put in the name of your student's high school, and you're going to want to see the classes on their A to G list. So it's a personalized list that has been submitted by your school to the University of California system. Okay, oh wait, hold on a minute, I'm confusing you now, right? Because I'm here for the CSU. Well, many, many years ago, the CSU made an agreement to accept the courses that have been identified and approved by the University of California system. So although you're going to be looking on a website that's going to say University of California all over it, don't let that confuse you. We take those courses. So you go in and you look so that when your student's saying, well, I think I want to take zoology my senior year, and you want to make sure that they take a course that meets the Area D requirement, first look and make sure that it's listed, because there are some classes in high school, although wonderful and great, and there might be good reason for your student to take them, but they are not going to meet any of these areas. They're not going to be listed in that A to G list. Eligibility Index. If your student has higher than a 3.0, we actually do not even need to see a test score in order to admit them to Cal State East Bay, nor the other non-impacted campuses. If they have between a 2.0 and a 3.0, you just need to look at the eligibility index. So for instance, if your student has a 2.9, what score do they need to have on the ACT? Can you see it? 12. And what do they need to have on the SAT if they have a 2.9? 580, exactly. Now that's 580 only on 2 of the 3 parts of the SAT. We do not look at the writing in the CSU. We only look at the reading and the math. We do not look at the writing component of the SAT. So if they meet this index, it's like a sliding scale. They're admitted to a non-impacted campus. A little bit about what's called the early assessment program. Yes, before I go on.
Non-impacted versus impacted.
I am going to define non-impacted versus impacted. I have a slide on that. And certainly if there's any other questions as we're going, you can raise your hand, especially to clarify or find out if I'm going to have something coming up. So I promise we'll get to that shortly. So the early assessment program is a test that has been in the past taken during 11th grade as part of the California Standards Test, so your STAR test that's given in public high schools in 11th grade. The STAR test has gone away, and now there is something called the Smarter Balanced Test, and the EAP continues to be given as it always has been. And the only important thing to remember is that students have an option to take it or not. When they're taking that standardized test, it's an extra 7 or 8 questions at the end of the test. And most school districts are doing a really good job of essentially not letting the kids know that it's an option and just saying, just take it, just do it, because it's so important. But technically there is an option. So we try to encourage parents to talk to their students about the importance of taking that part of the test. And the reason why is it is the least expensive, because it doesn't cost you any money, and easiest way for your student to be exempt from taking any remedial classes. So something that's really important in the California State University system is ensuring that students are ready for college level work in both English and math. So if your student can place at a college ready status by taking the EAP, that's it. They're good to go. They're going to be taking immediately when they start at any campus in the CSU credit-bearing courses that will count toward graduation. The students who have to take remedial classes, we offer them full support. We want to make sure that they're successful, but the hard part about that is that those classes are not credit-bearing toward graduation. So that's one of the things that statistically students encounter when they don't graduate in a reasonable amount of time. It's because they had several quarters or semesters of classes that didn't offer them actually any credit toward graduation, so it delays their eventual graduation. The Early Start program is connected to the Early Assessment program in that it is a support program for students who have been identified as not ready for college level work in either English and or math, and they are going to be required to participate in the Early Start program in the summer between their between their high school graduation and when they start as freshmen. This is for all California State University campuses. The goals of the program are to make sure students are prepared. It offers them typically a 3-week online or on-campus class. There's various ones offered to ensure that they're going to do a great job and be successful in their English and math classes once they get to the California State University campus of their choice. The campus where your student has been admitted and submitted what's called their SIR, S-I-R, Statement of Intent to Register, and said, yes, I'm going there. That is the campus that will communicate with your student. You have to participate in the Early Start program. The good news is if your student is going to be required to participate, but yet they're going to be going to San Diego State, however, you live here, you can take, your student, I should say, can take those Early Start classes in that summer period at Cal State East Bay. They're allowed to take it at their local campus. So it doesn't matter where they're going to end up going, they're eligible to take these courses at the campus of their choice that's most convenient for them. All right, are there any questions about the incoming freshmen that I haven't answered except for about Impaction regarding the A to G, the eligibility, the courses students need to take that I can answer before we move on to transfers? Yes?
The GPAs, are those weighted or not weighted?
The GPA is a weighted GPA with no more than 8 classes that can be weighted. So if your student has taken 10 AP classes in high school, we're only going to count an extra grade point for 8 maximum. And additionally, we do not look at grades. We do not include grades from 9th grade in their GPA calculation. And in fact, when you think about it, anyone have a senior right now in high school? All right, good, me too. So they're applying right now, they're getting started, they should have those applications moving forward. But when my daughter goes and puts in her estimate, GPA that she calculates into CSU Mentor, she can only calculate it from 10th and 11th grade. We don't look at 9th, so those don't count. And she hasn't received grades for the first semester, right, yet of her senior year. And she won't receive those prior to the application being due November 30th. So you're looking at 10th and 11th grade. And then even more narrowly, if your student took a PE class in 10th grade and that's not on the A to G list, or like my daughter took a marching band class, not on the A to G list, you don't count those either. Yes?
One of the things I thought was interesting is we just did this for Cal Poly. They did ask for the 8th grade algebra grades, okay, which I thought they wouldn't ask for. And the other thing is they send you to some GPA calculator.
On the system, there's a GPA calculator, right?
The GPA calculator tells you to enter your grades from 9th through 12th grades. And that is wrong, right? Because, oh, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think
what it asks you is tell me how many AP courses you've had in 9th through 12th grades.
Right.
That's what it does. And I thought, well, that's really interesting because I'm only computing the GPA for 10th and 11th grade, but you want to know all my AP courses for 9th through 12th, and I haven't even taken those 12th grade AP classes yet, right?
Right.
But I can weight my GPA from 10th and 11th grade with AP courses that are in 12th grade?
Well, you can't because you haven't received. It doesn't give you any weight. I think that probably the goal of that part of the system is to, number one, document for the CSU that your student is applying to that they could perhaps have AP credit going toward college credit from an AP exam taken. So it's a preemptive way to put that into their file to identify, okay, wait, this student, kind of sets a little star off.
They do ask you all those things, but they don't. But they actually, in that GPA calculator, which I think is just wrong, they ask you for how many AP courses in 9th through 12th grades.
Okay, well, I definitely encourage you. I haven't seen that myself. I encourage you to talk with me after, and perhaps you can send me an email, because obviously that's not something we do as a campus. It's something the Chancellor's office handles, so that we can ensure we're getting the right information or there isn't confusing information in the application. We improve it every year. We want to make sure that it's something that makes sense to parents and families and the students counselors on campus and all of that. So that would be really good feedback. Thank you. Okay, any other questions about that? Okay, we're going to move on to transfers really quick because there might be people in the room who might be interested at some point in getting a BA degree if you don't already have one. And additionally, your student might decide to go directly to community college, which is what I did. It was a really good choice for me and a lot of good, a good choice for a lot of different students. Once they have completed the required work at the community college, they have to have a 2.0 or higher in all of those transferable courses. They have to have completed 60 semester units or 90 quarter units. It depends which community college you're at and whether they're on the quarter or the semester system. Additionally, they need to complete 4 key courses. English composition, speech, critical thinking, and mathematics. And what that does, successful completion of those courses with a grade of C or better identifies essentially that the student is the college-ready level, just kind of like we were talking about back with the freshmen incoming, needing to be college-ready. By completing that at the college level, they will be ready to transfer. And again, at this time, these requirements for admission have not changed in many years. And it's also important to know that with the Impaction, if a campus is not impacted, then a student would be admitted from their service area, like with Cal State East Bay. If your student is going to a community college somewhere at Las Positas College, let's say, and they meet these requirements, they will be admitted. Another important thing to know about that if you have a community college student, you yourself are a community college student, or your student is planning to start a community college next year or within the next couple of years, is something called the STAR Act, Student Transfer Achievement Reform. The idea of this STAR Act is a collaborative effort between the community college system in the state of California, of which there's more than 110 campuses, and the CSU system. Students who go to the community college and receive what's called an associate degree for transfer within a particular approved major will be able to transfer in to the CSU and have a roadmap set up for them so that they will graduate from that CSU campus within 60 or 90 units, so 60 for semester and 90 for quarter. So students with that ADT or associate degree for transfer have to make sure that when they're choosing which CSU to apply for, that there is the corresponding major and option. So it's not for every single major, and it's also not just for your regular AA degree. It's an Associate of Arts for transfer or an Associate of Science for transfer. So they're very different things, but I encourage you to note that down or look on our website for more information. All transfer centers within community colleges should have information on this STAR Act advising. Okay, so how are you going to apply to the CSU campus? A lot of you should already know. You set up your account in CSU Mentor. Make sure that the student applies between October 1st and November 30th for the following fall entering. If you have a transfer student or you are a transfer student, you have to find out ahead of time what the campus was planning to do about opening up their application for other quarters or semesters. So for instance, at Cal State East Bay, this last year, we were open for applications for winter, but not for spring, except from specialized populations such as veterans, athletes, and individuals with that associate degree for transfer. So as a transfer student, you need to plan ahead. Was there a question back there? No, okay. Okay, now we're going to talk about Impaction. There's a lot of confusion about Impaction, so I kind of have a really good way, I think, of explaining what it really means. So let's pretend that the room is completely full right now. Every single chair is full. And then someone walks in the back and they look around and realize they're not going to have a seat. Now, of course, during the presentation, they can just stand and that would be fine, or we could pull a chair in for them. At a university, if every seat is full, that's it. It's capped. And because of enrollment and number of students interested in particular campuses, for instance, the most famous would be Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, they have to set Impaction rules, or too many students would say, okay, great, I want that seat, and there won't be enough seats. At Cal State East Bay, we manage enrollment in different ways. We manage enrollment by making sure that we set deadlines, and if the student does not meet the deadline, then we cancel their application. The CSU overall gets a tremendous amount of applications every year to their campuses. At CSU East Bay, we get more than 20,000 every fall for the transfer students and for the incoming freshmen. And our typical class starting that next fall will be 1,500 freshmen and 2,000 transfer. So it's understanding the difference between what Impaction is, which is where the admission requirements have to be raised in order to make sure that they will have enough seats for the eligible students, And the non-impacted campus, who when you think back to those screens we were talking about, the Eligibility Index, finishing the A to G courses, as a transfer student having a 2.0 or above, completing that Golden 4, campuses that are not impacted, you meet admission requirements, you're in. Campuses that are impacted have to manage that and have to have higher admission requirements. At some campuses like Cal Poly, there are going to be some additional criteria that you might have to meet for them specifically, but for the most part, you fill out the CSU Mentor application. At the end of the application, you hit submit. Then you move into your next application, and it is automatically all pre-filled with everything that you already did, and then you just go ahead and hit submit again. So it's really easy once you get to your second, third, fourth application. If you are a family that might qualify for a fee waiver for the $55 application fee, please remember that every student is only eligible for up to 4. So if you find out that you qualify, that's a really important thing to take advantage of. And if you want to set that limit for your student, then you set that at 4, choose your 4 campuses, and anything above that you would have to pay for. So another thing to talk about is local admission area versus service area. So this is something that's just a sample up here on the screen. To understand it in full detail, what you really need to do is go online, look at the campus in the grid that your student or you are most interested in, and understand what the requirements are. So each CSU, the mission is to serve the local area. So that's why I'm here today. Even though I work for CSU East Bay, my job is to represent the CSU as a whole to you here in Livermore, because we're Cal State Hayward, or Cal State East Bay in Hayward, sorry. So in San Francisco, they're going to call someone from San Francisco State to provide this same kind of presentation to them in San Francisco. We all provide information and admission for our service area. In the case of CSU East Bay, because we're not impacted, essentially our whole service area is the entire state of California. So you'll see that listed on there. For our transfer students, we do have in the grid that we identify that a majority of the coursework is from a community college in one of our service area counties. However, at this point, we have actually not had to institute any service area limits for students coming. Let's say they did their entire transfer work at San Diego City College. We've had no limits on or impaction on transfer students coming from any community college in the state of California. However, conversely, one good example for service area is San Diego State. If you want to transfer into San Diego State from a community college, the student must take all of their transferable units from a community college within one of their service area counties. If your student does 1 semester up here at Los Positas College and then decides, now I'm moving, I'm going to do everything there, they will have to repeat things in order to make sure that 60 semester units will be able to transfer into San Diego State. So this is everybody's most favorite slide because it talks about how much it costs. First of all, we're the best deal, is the reality. We are the lowest sticker price that you're going to see anywhere, but that's the important thing to remember. It's just a sticker price. Every January 2nd, the FAFSA opens. Who's familiar with that term? FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. Every single student should fill it out. It doesn't matter how much you think or don't think you may or may not get financial aid, fill it out. And the reason why is because it provides opportunities for tuition and fees to be paid by the state of California, Cal Grants they're called, if you meet the income qualifications. And additionally, it is the same form that allows the federal government to provide you with information on loans. And there can be loans that do not accrue interest throughout the time your student is in college. And that way, once you start paying them off, they haven't even accrued any interest up to that point. And then there's also loans that accrue interest during the time your student is in college, but still you don't have to pay anything on them until your student graduates. So really great options that can end up reducing these totals that you see at the bottom of these columns. It's also really important. Whoops, I thought we had another slide in there on scholarships, so write this down. CSUEastBay.edu, which is our website, is kind of plastered all over the place, /scholarships. We have a really good scholarships website with information on scholarships, not only at Cal State East Bay, but routes you to some other information on outside agencies that support scholarships. Do not ever pay someone, though, to do a scholarship for you. If you connect with a company who says, oh, pay us $500 and we'll help you get a scholarship, don't do it. We don't recommend it. But companies like scholarships.com, fastweb.com, these are opportunities for your student to go in, and even if they spend an hour writing an essay and they could have a chance of winning a $500 scholarship, I don't make $500 an hour. So I'll tell you, I'm on my daughter to really start to do some of those things, because those $500 scholarships, they add up. So there are ways to reduce this total cost. Want to make sure that you're prepared. Visit campuses in the Bay Area. Take a trip to Southern California so that your student can participate in open houses and preview days that are typically offered either in the fall or the spring on CSU campuses. Get involved in that early assessment program. Make sure your student's taking that test in junior year. And find the campus, again, that is the best fit for your student. And they're not going to know for sure which one that is unless they step foot on that campus and feel, wow, this is the place for me. Because I'd love all of your students to choose Cal State East Bay and come, and it's one of the most amazing universities that I've ever worked at. But it may not be the best place for them. And I want to make sure they find the place that's going to make their higher education successful and end up successful at the end of the day and get a job that they want to get. And remind your students that in the California State University system, a lot of them will be admitted starting mid-November. They will start to get admission letters from some campuses, including East Bay. But that is provisional. They have to do what they told us they were going to do during their senior year. So my daughter has to get a C or better in her English class this year. She can't just slack off and say, oh, good, forget it, right? It's a requirement. So that's why all campuses are going to require that a final transcript that is official from their high school be sent into the university so we can verify not only all the courses that were taken and the grades that were received, but also that they actually graduated from high school. When you do your application on CSU Mentor, it is self-reported information. And a computer is looking at that information initially before an evaluator receives the official transcript to do real evaluations on the transcripts. Some other resources. Hopefully the high schools your students attend have some really great college and career advisors and centers available. CSU recruitment counselors like myself often visit schools in the area, so you want to find out when those are coming up. Last week there was a Tri-Valley College Fair. If anyone lives out here, I don't know if anyone went to that. Next week there's more college fairs in the areas. You can look on our website and see all of the college fairs that Cal State East Bay will be represented at, and then some other web resources as well listed there. So thank you. I want to give an opportunity for some questions, which I'm sure you must have. Yes?
After we had a presentation last week on the UC admissions, and after that I went to the FAFSA website to kind of, tool around, and really it's only if you're ready to apply at that time. And there really wasn't any information on what we could possibly qualify, given we're in the same financial position next year as we are this year. Do you know of any resources that could help? Because her decision on where to go is obviously going to be impacted on what we qualify for, any scholarships, anything like that. And when do you recommend applying for scholarships? My daughter's a junior right now.
Right, absolutely. All good questions, and I'll kind of repeat some of them in case some of you couldn't hear them. So the first part was just about the FAFSA, which of course is not open yet. You can't actually apply. You can tool around on the website and learn some good information. But she was asking about how's a way to determine what am I going to qualify for? Very difficult to do that ahead of time. It's very difficult to identify because it's dependent on who does apply by the priority deadline of March 2nd, and then they have a big pool of money, and then they disperse accordingly. So things change year to year depending on the number of people who actually submit that application. So it is very difficult to tell. A general rule of thumb is that if your income in your family, and that could be a dual or a single income, is more than $90,000 to $100,000 a year, you're not going to receive any grants from the state or the federal government, and grants don't have to be paid back. You will receive, however, absolutely loans, which although some people then say, well, I didn't get any financial aid, you have to consider that financial aid because they're such good rates and they don't have to be paid back right away. So there's an opportunity to plan to pay those back and potentially get other scholarships throughout college that could help to pay those back. When should you start applying for scholarships? It's never too soon, in my opinion. If you can find a scholarship that a current junior in high school is eligible to apply for, go for it. The problem is going to be is a lot of them, you have to be a senior in order to apply. So there just may not be as many available, but I would start looking now. I think it's important for students to, collaborate sort of with the family on that. It's an investment by everybody together in your child's future. Was there another part of the question that I missed? Okay, good. Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah, and right here in front.
Okay. What is the best CSU for a major of nurse?
A major of what?
Nurse.
Nursing. Well, Cal State East Bay, of course. Not all of the CSUs have nursing. So that's number one, so you want to make sure that you look into that. One of the things about Cal State East Bay's nursing program is the money that we have put into it, honestly. The simulation labs to ensure that students are getting real hands-on, real-life experimentation with what it's like to be a nurse is a really key component of our program, and that is not something that I know about actually from the other campuses that provide nursing, so I can really only speak to East Bay. But the ones that do provide nursing programs should have really easy to find websites, and our nursing program has information sessions actually just for nursing, and they usually hold those once a month, and you can find those on our website if you just go to csueastbay.edu/nursing and find when those information sessions are. And our campus is impacted for nursing. So you can come to the campus for pre-nursing, but there is a supplementary application that needs to be filled out in order to get into the nursing program. And we get approximately 800 applications for nursing each year, and only 126 are admitted. So it shows you how competitive that program is. And students who've been admitted to the university don't get into nursing. What they usually do is they complete their degree in health sciences, and then they go and find a different route to nursing after they graduate with their BA degree. Yeah, hand right here.
So you had mentioned that your particular nursing program is an impacted program, but maybe other ones aren't. So if, given the situation, let's say your student doesn't know what they want to do, and so I remember I just went to a college fair at a local high school, and they said, well, if you want to get into the school, you have to declare your major, and then you have to meet the actual impacted requirements. And
afterwards,
we said, well, what if we don't know if that's what we want to do? So
right. So it depends school to school. It's a good question. We're talking about getting into impacted majors. What if your student doesn't know what they want to do? I mean, most of them as seniors are 17 years old right now. It's a really big deal to try to figure out what you're going to do with the rest of your life at 17. And so there's a couple of important things. Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, you have to select your major. They are all impacted, and once you're admitted to that major, my understanding is it is almost impossible to change it and still stay at Cal Poly. It is just the way they are, but they're still trucking along as a very popular school. Is that the best thing for your student? It may not be if they have no idea what they want to study. Then you look at a place like Cal State East Bay, that at the incoming freshman level, it is not impacted. And actually, I think it's really a bonus because they come in and identified as pre-nursing, so it shows that they're interested. They do really well. They get straight A's. They do really well on their entrance exam for nursing, and then they up their possibility of getting into the nursing program. And if they don't, then there's secondary options later. And then you have a place like San Jose State, which is like the example you were sharing about. You get into the major, but you're like declaring your interest, but you're not really in the major till later. But it really is a good thing, because what it's giving the student an opportunity to do is show the school, show the university there in their freshman and sophomore year, I mean it, I want to be this major. And if they decide to change, so they spend their first year taking kind of this theme of classes, and then they say, oh no, I didn't want to do biology, I wanted to do sociology, the only detriment is that it's going to take them longer to graduate. That's one of the highest reasons that students don't graduate in time, because they keep changing their major. it's difficult. You know, it's a hard answer, and I'm happy to talk to you more about it after, for sure. I saw a couple more hands. I'm going to go to the way back and then come down 1, 2, 3. So way back.
A couple questions about the application.
Yeah.
So the first one is, how do you submit your transcripts? And the second one is, it says they may consider extracurriculars, but there really wasn't a place on the application for the extracurriculars.
Okay, 2 good questions. So how do you submit your transcripts? It depends on your student's high school or your student's community college. Some do submit electronically, and there's a system that the student can go into, especially at the community college level, and say, order transcript. In the community college, often pay a fee, and then it gets sent electronically to the university. A lot of high schools, though, still do not use any kind of electronic version of a transcript. So it is usually at my daughter's school, there's a half sheet of paper sitting out outside the registrar's office. Student fills it out very clearly and legibly with the address to mail it. They circle they want the official transcript mailed, and then the registrar just mails it out directly from the school. It always has to be sent or uploaded by somebody other than the student or family, right? Because then the risk would be it's not official. The only caveat to that is that if a student, let's say, was kind of running late with something and wanted to hand deliver a transcript that they picked up from their high school or community college, it would need to be closed, sealed, stamped on the back to show that it was still official. Right, so it's hard for me to answer that question because at Cal State East Bay we do not look at extracurriculars per se. I think Cal Poly Pomona and San Luis Obispo are the only ones that do, and my understanding is that within the CSU Mentor application, before being able to submit to those colleges, there's actually some secondary questions that do pop up for those specific universities. And then additionally, if you have a student who might be eligible for the Educational Opportunity Program, or if you know someone, a neighbor or a friend whose student might be eligible, the Educational Opportunity Program within the California State University system is for low-income first generation to college students, meaning their parents did not graduate from college, and they have a supplementary application as well where they will look at things like extracurriculars. Okay, and there was a next question there, yeah.
Yeah, my question is on the Impaction, the schools and majors.
Yeah.
Is there a list of all the impacted schools and the impacted majors?
Yes.
And then my other question would be, you said there's additional requirements for impacted schools. Are there specific additional requirements, or are they looking at additional criteria like GPA and test scores and so on?
Right, so good question. So first of all, the website right up here, www.calstate.edu. If you search Impaction in the search bar on that website, you will find everything you want to know in terms of what campuses are impacted, what programs within those campuses, and with also links to specific school websites to get even more detailed information. And then your secondary question, the higher criteria, typically what they're talking about is they want to see that the student, for instance, has taken 4 years of math, not just 3, or that the student has taken 4 years of a second language, not just the minimum 2. So they've gone above and beyond. And then depending on the campus, they will publicize where is their eligibility index. So they'll be able to tell you that to get into this specific major at San Jose State, you need to have a 3.2 or higher with this on, the specific test score. Yeah, and then there was one right there.
Of the application, you see have one application for all of the schools. And the second question is, how stay with the volunteer work from the student?
Okay, 2 good questions. So yes, just like the UC, we have one application. That's the CSU Mentor.edu. Fill it out once. There might be a couple of supplementary questions for a couple of campuses, but it's the same information that everybody wants to retrieve. And then you were asking about volunteer activities, perhaps at Cal Poly, but most of the campuses are not looking at that. It's a good and a bad thing. The CSU does not look at the human being, essentially. We just look at the numbers. I just want to know your GPA, I want to know your test scores, and I'll let you know whether you're admitted or not. I don't need to know anything else. A couple of the campuses might want to know a couple of additional things. Was there? Yep. Why do we need it? Well, because the transcripts still have to be evaluated for validity and ensuring that the GPA was calculated correctly and the courses were taken and that they check the A to G list, et cetera. So it's just not there's a word for that I can't think of. Yeah, it's definitely not a holistic review. Yeah. It's because the mission of the CSU is to be the university for the Californian. And that's why you have the identified service areas to ensure that if your student, any student who has above a 3.0 is eligible to go to at least one CSU. So it's that opportunity for higher education. I'm going to ask you to hold on because there was a hand back here. Yes?
How do you know what they specialize in each college? You know, like nursing or...
Oh, in terms of their majors, good question. So you...
Different.
Right, so you want to go into CSU MentorEDU and you have that postcard in your folder, and there's a way to do a major search and then it'll pop up and let you know here's the ones that have those majors, or here's. Well, I mean, as you know, it depends. I don't know, obviously, all the CSU different websites. Like in our website, on our website, you can go right in the search bar and you can type in majors. And then the next page that pops up will be similar to that one page inside. You have a booklet inside, like a little brochure inside your folder as well. And right in the center of that brochure is the list of all our majors. So absolutely. The CSU Mentor website is just a good way to do it. So if you want to say, I just want to know who has kinesiology, it'll let you know who has that major. But certainly every website is going to identify for you what are the fields of study they offer, yeah. And yeah, right there. Oh, you're done? Okay, and right here in the front?
The critical thinking requirement for transfer students.
Yes.
Is that a particular course that can be satisfied?
Very good question. So it depends on the community college whether the critical thinking or the speech or the math can be satisfied by a variety of different kinds of classes, meaning I could choose A, B, or C, or whether there may be only one. It depends what the community college offers. And just like there's the A to G list for the high school system, there's another website called assist.org, A-S-S-I-S-T, and that is the A to G list for the transfer student. So that's where the student will go, and they'll plug in their community college, and they'll be able to look what meets that critical thinking requirement and know specifically what are the courses and course numbers at their community college that will satisfy that requirement. Okay, I think we have just a couple more minutes. Are there any last questions? I'll also be happy to stay after if there's any questions that you want to ask one-on-one. Yeah, and please take advantage of the preview day, 20% off at our bookstore, because I took that. We had preview day on Saturday, and they said, hey, let's just take the folders. I'll bring them over there. And so if you're on campus prior to November 15th, that 20% off will be good. You can use that. We do have some Saturday tours coming up at Cal State East Bay. The next one is on November 8th. So if you have never had an opportunity to visit campus, I recommend you go online to csueastbay.edu/visit, and you can find out about all our visiting opportunities and come on campus. Yeah. Oh, sorry, hold on one second. First there.
So yes, I do remember. So in terms of those campuses that are impacted, do they primarily take priority of their
service area?
Right, of the transfer students from their service areas versus outside?
Correct.
Do they do that? Okay.
So that service area grid that I showed you that had just a few of the campuses listed, but you can go online and see the full grid. Absolutely, they will give a higher admission consideration to students coming from their service area, or like with San Diego State, they won't even consider you if even one of your classes is from outside of their service area. So it depends, you know, university to university. And question here.
May we email to you for questions?
Oh, absolutely. Please write down my email and feel free to reach out to me. Just kind of remind me, like, you know, not that I'm going to remember names or anything, but just, hey, I saw you present, whether it's next month or next year. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out. Yeah. Okay. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.